So finally, another topic that can really be confusing, even if you've got a calculator, and we've talked about this before. I did a little video in previous weeks, is the question of the order of operations. That is, you've got multiplying and dividing happening, maybe parentheses, exponents, adding, subtracting, and so forth. When do you do what? And again, the calculators typically won't figure that out for you. You have to tell it, which piece you want done first. So order of operations is also known as PEMDAS. If you were in school recently, this is one of the ways that it gets taught as PEMDAS, with the P standing for doing parentheses first, then E for exponents. If you remember from last time, I said that multiplying and dividing, since multiplying and dividing are really sort of very similar, that any multiplication problem can be turned into a division problem, especially if you kind of think about fractions and so forth. So multiplying and dividing is really there. It's not always the case that multiplying comes before dividing. Multiplying and dividing you think of at the same time, and you just do it as you read it from left to right. And then the same thing is true with adding and subtracting. Adding doesn't necessarily always come before subtracting. If you have adding and subtracting to do, you do whatever comes first as you read from left to right. So that's just a quick review of some of the things that we talked about last time. Well, let's look at a problem with decimals since we're in that chapter. So here's one kind of little bit sticky one that involves calculating it out and then rounding your answer to the nearest tenth, which builds on the last video that you watched about rounding. So let's see. First of all, there's a lot going on here, and it's worth thinking through what we have first. So one thing that I want to point out is we do have something in parentheses here. The 7 minus 2.4, that's in parentheses. Because it's in parentheses, it suggests that that's one of the first things we do. We also have some parentheses over here, but with the 0.4, but there's really nothing that needs to be simplified within those parentheses. That's just a case of the parentheses are in there just to clarify that that exponent of 3 is going for the whole thing 0.4, just so that you don't think that the exponent of 3 is only for like a whole number 4 or something like that. So that parentheses we don't have to worry about so much as a parentheses that puts it in the front of PEMDAS. So we've got parentheses, we have an exponent, we have adding, we have multiplying, we have subtracting that's inside the parentheses. So worth stopping this video at this point and trying to think of which we should do first. And if you do that, you should probably be doing this subtracting that's inside the parentheses first. If you take 7 minus 2.4, you get 4.6. So then you have 0.4 raised to the third power plus the work that we've done here to get 4.6, and we still have times 1.5. So then you think about, well, what do we have left? We've got an exponent of 3 right in the front here. We've got adding, we've got multiplying. So what does PEMDAS tell us that we should be doing next? I'll stop and let you think about that for a second. And the answer is we should be dealing with this exponent of 3. So 0.4 to the third power is 0.4 times itself 3 times. So 0.4 times 0.4 times 0.4, which is 0.064 plus 4.6 times 1.5. All right, so it is getting simpler. We're not quite there yet. We've got adding to do, and we've got multiplying to do. Which does PEMDAS tell you to do first? Definitely multiplying. Multiplying definitely comes before adding or subtracting. So the work that needs to be done then is to multiply 4.6 times 1.5. And if you do that, you get 6.9. And so that would be 0.064 plus 6.9. And if you do that last addition step, there's really nothing else to be done except the rounding right at the end. You get 6.964. Now we've been asked to round that to the nearest tenth. So this is tenths. So we looked to the next number to decide, is that 9 going to stay the way it is or get rounded up? And actually, because the 6 is big enough, it's 5 or bigger, so it is big enough, that 9 is going to get nudged up to a 10. But of course, we can't fit the 10, 0, into that 10th place. So we're going to carry that 1 over. And so the final answer there, after you round, good practice, 7.0.